Hello, my name is Nadir Alizade. Today I would like talk Mr. Jalal story. Hey, Ismayil, make him understand. They say that a campaign against bribery is underway. That's quite true. But what I want to know is how do you define bribery? Bribery is receiving a request from an official which isn't legal. I give him some money and he ignores the law and does what I want. That's bribery. Another example is one in which I might have special relationship with a minister or a chief such that whenever we are having a special dish with rice pilaf, I can't eat without inviting him. I ask him to join us and then I prepare a feast. Some scholars believe that this is a different sort of impropriety, but in this case no cash is involved. Instead, goods are exchanged as bribes. There are other situations which can't be considered either as bribe taking or as showing respect. I don't know what they should be called. When you ask, they say, no, this is different. But what I'd like to know is just how it's different. About 15 years ago, I was a teacher in the town of Hachman in North Azerbaijan near the coast of the Caspian Sea, not far from the Russian border. I used to teach a math right in the middle of town in a middle school that faced the central square. Now there was a certain woman in the town, or I should say a certain lady with short hair who used to wear riding boots. Whatever this lady wanted, no one ever refused. Her name was Rutubat Hanım. You would see her point her finger toward a big piece of choice meat and say to the butcher, "Cousin, what's a chunk of meat?" "It's a prime piece of lamb," he would reply. "Put it on scale." "Okay, as you wish." "Give me a hand." When the butcher wanted to weigh half of the piece, the lady would say, "There is no need to wait. Just wrap it up. I'll take it as it is." "Yes, ma'am," the butcher would reply. Then he would take the meat marbled with fat, wrap it nicely and give it to her. Rutubet Hanım would take the packet and leave. I was shocked. Why didn't she pay? I think to myself, perhaps they know each other and she'll pay later. But I would see the same lady in a restaurant and after eating and wiping her mouth, she'd leave the restaurant without paying. Or I would see her entering a grocery and after filling her basket with sugar, tea, rice and butter, she would leave without paying, leaving the grocer bewildered. It was amazing. Perhaps we had entered the era of the true communism and money was no longer necessary. But if that were true, then I was the only one who wasn't benefiting. I should add that the lady with the short haircut, Rutubet Hanım, never went alone on the shopping execution. She was always accompanied by a tall military man who would carry her basket or her suitcase. As she made her rounds in the bazaar, the basket would get heavier, but she never did pay a penny. This was so amazing. Even the chief of the market couldn't do this. At least the tax collector gives a receipt. Even the food inspector doesn't behave in this way. Once I saw Rütbet Hanım in a fabric shop which had just opened. She had ordered several rolls of fabric and from each roll she took enough fabric to cut a dress. But this time, when she started to leave the shop, the shopkeeper called out, "Wait!" "What is it?" she asked. "But my sister, you forgot the money," he replied. "What money?" "The money for the fabric." The woman turned to her tall companion and said, "Comrade Ismail, please make him understand." Ismail approached the shopkeeper and said, "Forget about it." "What?" "I said forget about it." "So what am I to do?" She is the sister of the man. Put it on special account. On what? On a special account. The fabric salesman was bewildered. The lady, as if trying to blind him, pointed her finger toward him. Where has this stupid person come from? Don't you know who I am? No, my sister, I don't know. You know. Go and sit down. But how? Again she turned to her companion and said, Hey, Ismayil, make him understand. From what God-forsaken place have they brought this man? Couldn't they find anyone else in Guba? Is that why they brought this guy? Ismail called the store manager, who turned to the fabric salesman and shouted, Forget about it. Put it on special account. I witnessed the entire scene. I didn't understand. This was neither bribery nor respect for some minister. This was said out of fear. Out of fear, one gives his goods and his money to a robber, a thief, or a highwayman. But this type of thing happens in the mountains or in other places, not in the center of town, in broad daylight, in front of everyone. In the heyday of Soviet government, why should a man give away his goods? This was unheard of. I thought to myself, I bet that this is different type of fear. I bet that Rutubat Hanım is a different type of lady. I turned out that she was the sister of the most powerful man in the country. Nobody dared stand up to her. As soon as she appeared in the market, everyone tried to hide and stash their goods out of sight. But she was too quick and too keen for these people. Like an eagle, she would descend upon them, open their backs and fly away, taking whatever she wanted. For many years this lady rode her horse unchallenged in the town, but in this summer of 1953 Rutubet Hanım stopped coming. No one knew what had happened to her. One said that she had died, but her military man, Ismayil, was still in the bazaar. Standing as though he had just retired, Ismayil would put his two hands behind his back and stand and watch the everyday affairs of the world. Hey, Ismail, where is the Rutubet Hanım? Ismail would shift his weight from one foot to the other, look around, but not say a single word. Ismail, who used to be the one who made everyone understand, was now silent. He didn't want to speak. Ismail, what happened to that woman? What woman? Rutubet Hanım. Ismail was silent. He scratched his neck. Where is Rutubet Hanım? Let's talk about something else, he would reply. Rutubet Hanım had disappeared without a trace. At one time you could have seen her march through town in her riding boots, followed like a shadow by Ismail, who carried her basket and answered, Yes, ma'am, to her orders. You might have thought that she was the town goddess. It's hard to imagine that someone with roots as deep as Rutubet Hanım could vanish from this town so easily. But 1953 was a terrible year for her. Whatever happened in the summer of that year, the result was that the wield of Rutubet Hanım's power was broken. Then she simply vanished. No one saw her, no one heard her ordering Ismail around again. The townspeople laughed and were delighted to be free of the chief and his bully sister. The only person still associated with the Tibet Hanım was Ismail. Like an autumn leaf, he turned yellow and dried up. He even shrank in size. He didn't have anyone he could make understand. He had no patience. Whenever anyone asked about the Tibet Hanım, he'd get embarrassed. His face would turn red and he'd say, Let's talk about something else. Ismail, may those days begin and never return? And he would just say, Let's talk about something else.